Hi guys, I'm Jonathan Wagner, your restoration contractor. We're on another project of mine here in beautiful Camarillo, California. I have a special guest today, Patrick Robinson with Golden Coast Claims, and we're going to go over what a public adjuster is. Insurance companies are not only profitable by collecting premiums, but they also control the claims process and payments to remain profitable. When you file an insurance claim, your insurance company sends a representative called an adjuster to assess the damage to determine how much you're going to get paid on your claim, which you don't have any say in. Who represents you throughout this process? That's when a public adjuster steps in. Patrick, I'm stoked you're here to help tell the audience exactly what a public adjuster is.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Well, let's get right into it.
Sure.
Patrick, what is a public adjuster?
So a public adjuster is somebody who is licensed through the State Department of Insurance and is there for the homeowner. They're there to advocate through the claims process and make sure that they're getting everything that they're entitled to under their policy.
Patrick, what are the different types of adjusters?
Generally, there are three types of adjusters. There is a company adjuster, which is somebody that is employed by a specific insurance company. They are their employee, they represent the insurance company, and have their interests in mind. There's also something called an independent adjuster, which is basically somebody who is hired by multiple insurance companies and represents the insurance company's interests again. The third type is a public adjuster, and that is the only type of adjuster that is there for the homeowner's benefit. Their sole purpose is to handle the claim on the homeowner's behalf and make sure that everything is going in their favor.
When a homeowner is dealing with an insurance claim, why should they hire a public adjuster?
Most people don't realize how much work an insurance claim can end up being. There are countless phone calls, back and forth negotiations with the insurance company. There's a lot of getting estimates together, and it's a very confusing process. Most people relate a claim to an auto accident. An auto accident is a very prevalent type of claim, which the insurance companies actually have pretty well figured out. You drive your car into a body shop, they fix it, you pay your deductible, and very simple, straightforward. On the homeowners and the business owners side, things get a lot more complicated. Essentially, you've got adjusters coming into your house, trying to minimize the damage, trying to cut you off at certain rooms, and it's just a very difficult process to go through.
Patrick, why should somebody hire a public adjuster?
Going through a claims process is basically a full-time job. One, there's a lot of time talking to the insurance company, negotiating with their adjuster, coordinating with contractors. It's a very complicated and a process that nobody really wants to go through. Having a public adjuster is bringing somebody in to represent you and to deal with all of those details. Somebody that is experienced in handling claims, that does this every day, and who's looking out to make sure that every benefit afforded under your policy is being paid to you.
Now, I happen to work with Patrick almost on a daily basis, so I would say I'm very pro public adjuster, but the right public adjuster. Why do you think public adjusters get a bad rap?
Certain people that you talk to will say, public adjusters are just trying to, take all the money out of the claim, or, maybe they don't really actually bring any benefit. And in my experience, you kind of have to consider the source. Obviously, if you're talking to your insurance company's adjuster and you say, hey, I'm thinking about hiring a public adjuster, they're going to try to talk you out of it. In my mind, that's basically because they know that now they have to deal with an expert who knows exactly how this process should go and is going to be looking out to make sure that everything is paid to the homeowner. So again, consider the source. If you're hearing that from the insurance company, to me, it's kind of an advertisement for a public adjuster because they know that they're going to have to pay more money. Just like any industry, there are certain people and bad actors that have kind of given public adjusters a bad rap. A lot of it has to do with kind of an ambulance chasing type environment where people are going out and pursuing large fire losses, or maybe after a natural disaster like a hurricane event. In situations like that, you've got people that will sign clients up with not a lot of thought about the repair process, putting the customer in the best position possible, treating the customer in a way that's going to make them refer them to their friends and family in the future. There's a lot of different situations where people can be taken advantage of. And that's why I think as a homeowner or anybody filing a claim, there's some due diligence that you would have to do.
For somebody that's sitting late at night in their bed, they just had a large fire or a hurricane ripped through their town, or they're dealing with a water damage right now, and they're up contemplating, I need to hire a public adjuster, or they've been approached by a public adjuster. How can that person find out if they're working with a good public adjuster?
Sure. So, I think with anything, any profession, first thing to do is just make sure that there's a license, right? Public adjusters are licensed through the state that they're operating in. So that's kind of just a very basic thing to start with. Is their license current? Do they have any complaints against their license? Do they have any bond issues? A quick search online and you'll get some good information about who you're potentially going to be dealing with. That's all very administrative based, and I think that online reputation has a large component of it as well. Do they have reviews? How many reviews do they have? Are their reviews 5 years old? Are they relatively current? And what are people saying about them? A personal recommendation from a family member or friend, or maybe somebody that's helping you with the repairs to your home. I think that goes a long way, because now you've got some history. You've got somebody that understands how this person operates and that they're in this for the long haul. Those are some good ways I think that a person can kind of vet who they're going to be working with. And then also, I would also just say the initial interactions with that person as well. When you call them, are they responsive? Do they answer the phone? Are they just texting you back or emailing you? Your initial interactions with them can kind of give you an eye into what you'll be dealing with in the future.
Patrick, I get this statement all the time. I've paid my premiums for years and I've got a great insurance company. And I'm in the background thinking, oh, you've never worked with them during a claims process before. What do you say to somebody that knows they've got a great insurance company? Do you think it's necessary for them to hire a public adjuster?
Not every claim warrants a public adjuster. In my opinion, the majority of them do. And it's really hard for a customer at the beginning of the process to make this judgment call. But I think it's a great time to get a public adjuster into your home and to have a conversation. Most people, myself included, will do kind of like a free consultation. They'll sit down with you at the beginning of your claims process. They'll look at your policy. They'll explain the certain benefits that are available to you. Just in that initial meeting, a lot of times what I hear from clients is, my insurance company never told me that, or they didn't mention that that was available to me. And I think right off the bat, they start to understand that it's not necessarily the insurance company's job to explain every single benefit available to you as the policy holder. It probably is their job, but in reality, most adjusters that work for insurance companies have limited experience and just aren't aware of all of those benefits.
Gotcha. I know I've got some clients that roll up their sleeves and want to handle the claim themselves. What do you say to somebody that's just filed a claim and wants to handle it themselves?
Again, I think some people are going to feel like I've got this. A lot of times I hear people at the start, and then I'll kind of follow up with them and maybe in the middle of their claim, and it's like, man, I wish I would have hired you at the beginning. The amount of paperwork, the amount of time invested in making sure that you're getting a good result is something that you're not really keyed into at the beginning of the process. Beyond the time and effort, specialization, it really does carry some benefits. When you stack up a homeowner who's filing their first claim ever, who's never even seen their actual policy, versus somebody who's worked in the industry for multiple years, handled thousands of claims, who do you think is going to be able to negotiate a better result? And I think the answer is pretty clear on that.
Gotcha. Kind of leading into, you had mentioned, you'll get customers that will call you halfway through the process, and maybe at that time I would assume they were underpaid. How often do you walk into claims that are underpaid, or how many times are claims underpaid?
Every claim that we handle was either underpaid, from the initial settlement that the insurance company gave them. In my opinion, I think there's always a chance to find additional money on a claim. Things get missed, right? Now, not to say that every claim warrants a public adjuster. There may be a claim that's very simple. maybe there's one item that's damaged in the house and the claim is just for that one item. It's not really a lot of benefit that a public adjuster can bring for you in that situation. But the reality is they just get very complicated pretty quickly. So even a simple loss can turn into something much larger.
Now, I happen to enjoy working with Patrick and a public adjuster, but most of my contractor buddies also negotiate the claim throughout the process, and they don't feel that it's necessary. What do you say to somebody that maybe their contractor has said, hey, I'm willing to negotiate this and handle this with the insurance company? A public adjuster is not needed.
So a lot of times contractors or people that are helping clients with the repairs will say that. And again, from the customer standpoint, I think it's about considering the incentives, right? A contractor may look at it as, well, this person's going to come and take a percentage of the repair money available to me. In my mind, that's not the way to think about this. This person, the public adjuster, is going to be taking a claim and increasing the total value of it. Again, from a customer standpoint, a contractor is going to be negotiating for their bill to get paid. They're looking out for their interests. A public adjuster is there for the homeowner, looking out for their interests. So while the contractor may be able to talk to the insurance company about his billing, he's not having anything to do with the housing situation or the food reimbursement or the contents that are damaged or anything outside of what that contractor is specifically helping the client with is outside of their scope. So again, I think it's important for the customer to kind of look at what are the incentives in play.
Let's talk the project we're on right now. This is one where we both mutually worked. I think the initial settlement from the insurance company was about $7,500.
Yeah, 75 with a net settlement of in the $5,000 range.
Okay, and in this situation, we had a kitchen that was affected, countertops affected. As a contractor, I know that this would not have been repaired for $5,000.
Yeah, kind of a joke, right? I love walking into these things where, not much happens in a house for $5,000. And in this particular case, the client was expected to basically rebuild their kitchen from scratch and patch the flooring for $5,000, which I don't know, were you able to do it for $5,000?
No, we weren't able to do it for $5,000. The flooring did run continuous throughout the house. After you were brought in, Patrick, what did we end up settling the claim for?
We ended up settling for over $50,000. Now, every claim is different, right? Not every claim 10Xs, but the majority of what we deal with it's pretty common for us to get a result like this. Initially they wanted to just address the actual damage. They didn't want to make sure that the repairs were done to where the kitchen could be completed in a way that it was pre-loss condition. So for us getting in there and arguing those points, we obviously got a much better settlement. And you as the contractor, what were you able to do for the client?
Well, we were able to actually do the repairs, continuous appearance on the cabinets, which they were entitled to, new countertops, which they were entitled to. We weren't going to be able to match the existing. The client did do a couple upgrades while we were in here. This backsplash wasn't here before, but the client was able to be taken care of the right way. I know in this, let me lead into this. Now, I know the adjuster was really a good adjuster on this claim, very nice guy. Do you think adjusters want to underpay claims? Do you think that was his intention?
I really don't think that there's like a real motive from an insurance company adjuster to purposefully underpay claims. In my experience, what it typically results from is inexperience. I've worked for major carriers, and the amount of training that you get is primarily on the job. There is basically a 2-week crash course of here's what an insurance policy is, and here's how you write a repair estimate. And they're taking people straight out of college with no construction experience, and they're just basically saying this is how it's done. And so the result is pretty poor, as we see most of the time.
I know when I went to the Texas Freeze in 2021, I was staying at the hotel, or a hotel where a bunch of these catastrophic loss adjusters were staying, and I struck a conversation with one of them, and he was working at Apple 3 weeks before this event,
okay.
And now working as an adjuster. He had very limited experience, and I remember walking by their conference room, and you've got one main adjuster, probably a seasoned adjuster, about 50 new adjusters, and they're just going over how to pay these claims. In real world, I mean, you're dealing with $50,000 worth of damage, and you've got an adjuster up there showing you how to pay $5,000.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Home is most people's largest investment. Do you want to leave protecting that investment up to somebody with zero experience, or do you want to make sure that you're maximizing the protection plan that you've bought for your home?
Gotcha. Now, I know that I see tactics, some unethical tactics. I'm sure you see some tactics. What are some common delay tactics that you see throughout the claims process?
Yeah, delays, obviously, and especially these days, it seems like very prevalent in handling claims. Having worked on the inside, I know that the amount of workload that an adjuster is expected to be able to handle, it's just, you're almost set up to fail. So you've got maybe 50 claims going on at any given time. Those clients are calling you multiple times throughout the day. It's almost an impossible task. So the biggest issue, I think, with delay tactics is just straight non-responsiveness. Because things get buried and have to be addressed in the order that they're received, it's very common to call your adjuster or email your adjuster and not get a response for weeks after. From a customer standpoint, that's obviously completely unacceptable. And there are regulations that surround the timeliness that an adjuster has to respond. But again, you just want to get your claim resolved as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Well, thank you, Patrick. I really appreciate you coming on today and explaining the entire process, what a public adjuster is. I am a firm believer a policyholder needs to have you in their corner. I've seen the benefit. The first job I ran into Patrick on, it was I don't want to say the insurance carrier, but I remember they issued $9,000 to this particular client, and Patrick was able to jump on and get her $97,000. And throughout the years of working with Patrick, I've seen that over and over again. And I have seen a lot of unethical public adjusters out there that fire chase, that pressure clients into signing with them. They'll bring in their own teams. There was actually one this year that I went out to, and the client wanted to sign with us, but was signed with a public adjuster first. We got kicked off the job, and I pled to the client that they weren't going to meet the time frame that the restoration company was given. They were going to meet a 6-month timeline, and 9 months later, they're still in the same situation that they were when I left that house. So I think it's just finding somebody that's going to be honest, find somebody that's going to really help you, and get your claim taken care of. But thank you again, Patrick. I really appreciate you coming on and explaining what a public adjuster is.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. My goal is to put out as much valuable content out there to expose our industry and really help policyholders overcome the choppy waters that is the insurance claims process. I would love to read and hear about your stories. So if you've ever gone through a restoration project or are currently going through one, please leave it in the comments. And if you find good value in the videos that we're putting out, please give us a subscribe. It keeps us going, and we want to know that we're making some good content for you.